I just wanted to tell everyone about how Chang-su and I got into big trouble in 1988. We were putting on a competition, and here in our midst is Kay, who was one of the winners of our competition. It was open to Asian or Pacific Island American artists in the Washington, D.C. area. And it was all for two-dimensional work, and it was for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and we had a little gallery space and a budget of about 5 cents. And in order to publicize it, we went from restaurant to restaurant and food store to food store. It was Filipino, Lao, anything, and we'd get these little newspapers. We couldn't read a word of the newspapers except if Chang-su could read the Korean or Japanese, but we'd send in our press releases. And at first the entries were very slow to come in, but after a while we had a flood of entries that came in. And we ended up putting on a pretty respectable show, I'd say. Well, right in the middle of all of this high, intense publicity, one Monday morning, Jim Hobbins, who was one of those suits over in the castle, a very dignified man who always wore starchy shirts, called me up in my office and said, "You've got to come over here immediately and talk to me." It was like 9:05 on a Monday morning. And I said, okay. And he said, I'm calling Chang-su Houchins up too. You both better be here in 5 minutes or something. So we scurried over there knowing we were in real trouble. And he said, last night, Congressman Mineta, who was a regent of the Smithsonian, phoned Secretary Adams at home to complain that his constituents were not eligible to enter your contest because as a taxpayer-funded institution, the Smithsonian can't have anything as discriminatory as this. Well, I was furious because we had no budget, we couldn't pay insurance, we couldn't pay shipping, we couldn't do anything unless we had the cooperation of the artists, and so I was in a big huff. And Chang-su said, "Never mind. We will talk to the congressman and we will smooth things over." And I said, "Well, you better smooth things over because I'm mad as hops that anyone should call us down for something like this." So Chang-su made the appointment, and we went over there to Congressman Mineta's office where they served us cookies and coffee and things. And I was still in my defensive, belligerent mode, and Chang-su was just as placid and as gracious as could be. And before the end of the day, not only did they love us, Chang-su invited the congressman to be our keynote speaker. And he was, he was putty in our hands after that. And then we used that information to parlay ourselves into a fairly substantial budget for the reception. So we went from this budget of 5 cents to a budget of like $10,000, thanks entirely to Chang-su. And if it had been me, I mean, there would have been no future to that. Now, in the course of our publicity, we were using every avenue we could to publicize our event. And this is WGMS's an interview with me and Chang-su. It's a terrible tape. It's 22 years old, and I've been storing it in my basement. It is not benefited from this, but you might be able to hear a little bit. Anyway, you'll recognize her voice, and it will come back to you when you hear Chang-su speaking here. So let's get... I'm telling you, it's terrible. No, it's going to get a little bit better.
Houchins, the other coordinator, explained, "Houchins, this and over the mountains.
Across mean a danger.
Across the sea and over the mountains."
Some envisions the smoothness of journey, let's say. But with me, it's danger plus distance. And over the mountains, also, to me, hardships.
This art competition, one who is a permanent
It's terrible, I'm sorry.
of Asian Pacific Island descent.
Entry forms can be obtained from me, calling 35788, or from Chang-su Houchins by calling 3574727. We will send you your application forms, and you are allowed to submit up to 3 entries. A slide of your work of art should accompany each entry form by April 1st. The first judging will be
I
essential.
guess we can end it there. There's nothing else. But
It's
that's
nice to hear
her voice,
voice.
you know, and I don't know
Yeah.
how many other recordings there are of her voice, but if this gets picked up,
Yeah.
we'll at least have
Something.
something to remember her by, and that's my story.
That's lovely.